Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Yasmin. I'm really excited about this conversation today because we're going to tackle something that's top of mind for so many of you: how to modernize your security infrastructure without the headaches that usually comes with it. We've got two incredible experts joining us today who are going to walk you through exactly how cloud-based access control and modern credentials can transform your security operations. Let me introduce our presenters. First, we have Bill LaRosa, Strategic Development Manager for Cloud Solutions at Acre Security. Bill works with enterprise clients every day to help them navigate their cloud migration journeys. And then we have Julia Webb-Toomey, Vice President of Credentials, Wallet, and Leaf at Wavelynx. Julia brings deep expertise in how credentials and readers work together to create seamless, secure access experiences. And together, they're going to show you how these solutions work in tandem to solve real problems. Here's what we're covering today. We'll start with the state of the security modernization, where the industry is and where it's headed. Then we'll dig into the problem, the real challenges that organizations face when trying to upgrade their security systems. Next, the solution, how Acre's cloud platform and Wavelength's credentials address those challenges head on. We'll walk through a case study to show you exactly how this works in practice. And finally, we'll open the floor for your questions. We're keeping this to an hour with plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bill to walk us through the current state of the industry and why cloud adoption is no longer just a nice to have. It's becoming essential. Bill?
Thank you, Yasmin. Appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak with everybody. This is something that I've spent close to 3 decades of my life working on. So hopefully I can add some real good insight here to really talk about the state of the industry and the modernization of new systems. Can you take me to the next slide? So really kind of starting out, like I had mentioned, I have a good amount of insight on this, having close to 3 decades of experience running into this. So I have an interesting perspective that I like to think of when discussing topics like this. When I first started in my career, everything was appliance-based. Everything was on the computer. So learning computers was a big thing that was part of our industry. I happened to start out as a technician, so I got to live in that world and really see what it meant to deal with the customer's infrastructure and all the challenges that come along with it. When the cloud was first introduced to us, it was definitely something that we all joked about. There was a running joke here in the East Coast that the cloud was just a computer in the closet of some high-rise building in New York City. And that's how we all treated it. But that's not the case anymore. Over the last 15 years, it's really picked up, and it's no longer that emerging technology that it once was. It's part of every day. We're looking at every major company, Fortune 500 companies, adopting this through their HR platforms. They're looking at scaling and the things that they need to do, maintaining their infrastructure. And it's not really an operational model anymore. It's now part of their infrastructure. It's something that they consume on a daily basis. So looking at it from how we used to look at it and those fears that used to come along with it, they're really no longer a thing for us anymore. So, it's something that we don't have to have those conversations with these companies anymore because they're not afraid of it. They're already using it in their infrastructure. Can you, next slide? Kind of leading into that, why does a company want to move forward into the cloud? They have a lot of things that they have to maintain for that existing infrastructure. They have to maintain cyber compliances. That really leads us to that portion of this line. If they don't maintain those cyber compliances, they risk the chance of a data breach. That's extremely expensive. The other portion of this modernization and going into the cloud and these customers modernizing their systems really has to do with the door also. So it's not just the cloud, it's everything at the door. And if you notice here, we're looking at 22% data breaches are due to credential abuse. not making sure they have secured credentials, making sure they don't have secured readers at the doors that can read these new credential types. And the last piece of this is 45% of our business really still relies on that legacy piece, which means there's still a lot of opportunities out there for companies such as Acre, Wavelynx, and the integrators that we work with to fill this gap.
Yeah, and I think, Bill,
Sure.
it's, like you, I've been in this industry for a couple decades and been trying to get people to move to biometrics or more secure credentials that entire time. But yet, we still see the prox credentials out there and other credentials that have been breached. And I think there's a shift here that needs to happen in thinking about, we've closed a bunch of risks associated with identity on the IT side of the house, but we need physical security to operate as seamlessly, an infrastructure aligned with IT. And carrying those legacy credentials like the prox credentials almost means like you're putting a $4 to $5 million liability in your employee's wallet, without shifting to, the latest credential technology and more secure. So I think that's absolutely critical. I mean, there's been this identity fragmentation that's going on right now between physical and logical. And I think together between Acre and Wavelynx, we've got some great solutions that we can. And a part of, I think, the discussion today is how do we help with that transition? That transition's not easy, and
Yes.
we get it, right? So how together can we provide that path and help remove that potential risk?
Excellent. So, Julie, I think that leads us perfectly into the problem. Really, what we wanted to talk about today, kind of going over what some of those challenges are, and hopefully we can present some insight and some solutions to really go help our viewers really address this with their customers. So, first and foremost, three major problems that we need to address here, or three major topics. Time. Clearly, a customer modernizing their system takes a lot of time. This can be a very big issue for a customer who's trying to maintain their security. Do they have the time to invest in this and make sure that their teams are all involved, getting all of their IT staff involved, paying the people to really run through all of this, and the investment of time that they're going to have to put into doing this process? Quickly leads us into the second piece on here, money. Obviously, time is money. We all know this, especially if we're in sales. That money doing these upgrades, looking at their existing infrastructure. What other parts need to be addressed for that customer, and what are those costs going to be? And most importantly, the complexity. Those two first parts become easy, but customers really don't know from the very beginning how complex this system, this migration for them is going to be, and upgrading this. So next slide. So the solution here, really, we're going to be discussing the Acre Access Control platform and the Wavelynx reader platforms with credentials and mobile credentials. Most importantly now, I think that's a really big topic on this. So next slide. So I'm going to start off with the Acre Access Control product. This is our initial solution. So this is one of the premier enterprise products on the market. We already deal with a large amount of Fortune 500 companies. We are enterprise ready, and we are already helping enterprise companies move from their outdated on-prem solutions that really stick them into their fixed environment. A lot of the technology is getting older. So it's one of the foundations that Acre Access Control, and I always like to say formerly Phoenix, a lot of people still refer to it lovingly as Phoenix. It's been out on the market for over 10 years with a lot of runtime into it, and a lot of large scale customers who are feeding into it. So we have been constantly building this solution to meet our customers' needs and help them with this transition forward. So we're going to be highlighting this really moving forward. So kind of coming into this, we've dealt with a lot of these challenges already. And right now, I can honestly tell this audience that the same arguments that we got from our end users roughly 5 to 10 years ago aren't really happening now. A lot of them are already agreeing that the future is cloud-based. They're moving their platforms there already. And now security, which usually tends to be behind the market because of a lot of the things, the intricacies that go along with it. A lot of customers are very hesitant to go there because it's their security. Does it meet compliances? Is my data exposed? So these are some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Next slide. This is a question that I think every professional in our industry, especially for sales, should really be focusing on. Sales 101. What keeps my customers up at night? How do I solve their problems? So really addressing this, what keeps IT leaders up at night from this application. So clearly cybersecurity threats. How do we mitigate some of those things? How do we shear up our older infrastructure so that we can meet these things? A lot of times the costs really start pushing this out. The patching pressures that they really have. I've been on countless calls. I have an extensive background in dealing with enterprise customers. So I've been on most of these calls helping these customers get through this. And this can be extremely painful, shutting down services. The whole upgrade process to make sure that they're staying compliant when they have on-prem solutions. This is an extremely costly, from a time perspective and also money aspect for these customers. Emerging technology that comes out. This is something that a lot of IT professionals look at, and then they look at their on-prem solution and they give us those calls. And I've received these calls, and Julie, I'm sure you've received these calls in your life. How this great product is out right now. How do I get that into my solution? And unfortunately, with a lot of on-prem solutions, the answer is, yeah, we're working on it. You're going to need to do an upgrade on your system. Well, with a customer who has 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 plus, even 1,000 plus, they look at that and go, whoa, this is a monumental effort, Bill. All I want to do is pull this one device and some of the software into my platform. Do I really have to do all that? And unfortunately, most of the time, the answer is yes. The compliance demands. Compliances right now, from a global standpoint, India just released their data residency standards. A lot of other companies are releasing these data residency standards and new compliances through Europe. Everybody knows about GDPR or GDRP, I'm sorry. They're constantly updating a lot of these things. And most of these IT companies are looking at us going, hey, is my system compliant? Am I meeting all of these things? From an on-prem standpoint, that initial answer is always no. Because if it's a new compliance and it's not built into that platform yet, or it hasn't been tested yet, it becomes very difficult. So they're going to have to wait for that upgraded version to include some of those compliancy needs, and also start scheduling an upgrade to make it happen. So they may not be able to meet that compliancy from 6 months to potentially 18 months. They may not be able to make that compliancy demand. The other piece is budget and bandwidth. I kind of mentioned that in the beginning. Very, very expensive to do this. A lot of people involved in making these upgrades happen. So these are a lot of the heartburn items that the IT companies deal with when they're dealing with their customers. So how do we become a solution to that is a big question for us right now. Next slide. Some of the other big questions that come across for me is, Bill, if we move to the cloud, am I losing control of my backend? Am I losing control of my data? What happens to all these things when we go on? And the answer is nothing. You guys are already working in the cloud. All of this is yours. If anything, control becomes even more readily available for you. With solutions such as Acre Access Control, Phoenix, we have an open RESTful API. That data is yours. We want you to have that data, and we leave it in that aspect because all of our customers have the demands that they don't want to lose control of their data or their system. So very, very important. They want to make sure that their environment is still protected. The environment, as far as the control boards and all those things, they stay the same. Most cases, if it's Mercury related, we're reutilizing all of the existing infrastructure, going through and checking to make sure cyber compliances are met, and then giving them a life cycle management strategy. So control definitely doesn't disappear when you go into the cloud. Next slide. Again, kind of already touched on this. The data is already yours. Data residence can be aligned with regional and regulatory requirements. With Acre Access Control, we have multiple server environments in the AWS environment across the globe. So we are already setting up, we're either set up or setting up new infrastructure for our expanding markets, such as in APAC, where we're expanding our markets in the AWS environment over there to be able to properly align with some of the data residency regulations that are getting. As I mentioned, data ownership always remains with the customer. If you don't want it in our infrastructure, you can download it on a daily basis. Pull that data, drop it into your data lake. This is something we are seeing that's on the regular, and a lot of customer situations, this is their preferred method. So we can also implement strict access control, encryption, and audit trails. All of these things are enforced in our platform. So they come out of the box. These aren't extra features. We integrate with multiple multi-factor authentication platforms. So having that discussion is very important to us, and we meet a lot of those cyber compliances that are needed for that. The infrastructure provides under international and recognized security standards. So again, that infrastructure piece, we are already meeting ISO 27001 compliances from an international standpoint. We meet cyber hardening compliances through the Mercury platform. So if a customer already has this, we're ready to go. We may just need to do some swap outs with some newer back-end infrastructure to meet some of these things. And more importantly, is centralized reporting and audit. Again, this piece, we can have our customers do this internally within our system. But again, we're seeing a lot of our customers take our data and just ship it right into their data lake. So even more control from an even easier standpoint. So the customer is now controlling the data even more than they were before. Next slide. And we look at all of these challenges, these questions that we're asking ourselves. These are the things that we sit down and we discuss with our product team, with our development team, our senior salespeople, and as well as our internal RSM force. We constantly have meetings with this. We're looking at these questions and we're looking at these challenges so that we can present them to our teams and really start building our infrastructure around this. What are the new compliances that are coming up? What are the new questions that our customers are asking that are coming up? And making sure we can meet all of those pieces moving forward. Next slide. The other piece on this, you're going from a CapEx expenditure to an OpEx expenditure. Don't want to get into a whole financial conversation on this. I think at this point, many of us already know that. But from an OpEx standpoint, most companies are looking to stabilize their expenditures every year. Having fixed costs on reader licensing from an expansion standpoint is really critical for them. Knowing how much adding a reader to their system is going to cost in their OpEx model in next year, it's based on what they pay now. They have that fixed pricing. They know what to budget for. So in the following year, they know what their OpEx is going to be. They can easily budget for any expanding projects that might be coming forward without necessarily getting the VAR integrated. They know how much they're paying every month or every year for a reader license. So makes it very easy, and there's no hidden costs in this. Everything is really upfront and it's predictable. That's the main point on this. Next slide. And most importantly, what does this cloud adoption mean for our end users? First and foremost, resilience. This is big. In an older infrastructure, a lot of IT companies are trying to take old infrastructure and patch it, older servers, patch them to make sure it still meets. They may have to scale back because the software that they have on the system may not be able to operate in a new operating system yet. So a lot of these things become holes in their resiliency because they can't even upgrade them yet because it's such a forklift opportunity. Built-in redundancy is a big part of this. We don't have to have multiple infrastructures backing each other up inside because that's all part of the AWS infrastructure. We have uptime SLAs and global failover. This is huge for a customer being able to do this because in most cases, customers are paying out of pocket for these features with their existing infrastructure. Intelligence, allowing these cloud solutions to link to AI agents that a customer might have, allows that data to be part of their existing infrastructure. They can run AI-ready models with this infrastructure by having this open-end platform. The agility of this, again, as the customer grows, they don't have to worry about their infrastructure. You go and you add 1,000 readers to your system, you better guarantee you're going to have to look at your server infrastructure to see if you have enough resources internal to that server infrastructure to handle the load that's going to be coming into this. We auto scale. Everything's going to go up. So as that customer moves forward, they don't have to worry about their server infrastructure any longer. Governance, again, we talked about all this. We already meet a lot of the compliances for the customer. So we're meeting a lot of these global standards. So we're making it easier for them to put their head on their pillow at night. And more importantly, lower total cost of ownership. Just to reiterate what we had already discussed earlier, that OpEx model kind of takes everything that's usually underground, the hidden costs, the personnel that needs to be involved. And we all know labor is expensive right now. So not having to do that in the back end is very, very important. Next slide. So again, really kind of driving this home, subscription billing, very, very important. Customers move into the OpEx model. We simplify complex systems by taking that server infrastructure out of it. We're doing that for the customer in the back end. So all they need to worry about is maintaining their on-site physical infrastructure, adding doors, growing their system to meet their need. More importantly for our integrators, a reduction of truck rolls. In an on-prem solution, most VARs don't have access into that. In this solution, if the customer permits, those VARs can have access into those events to investigate issues that might be taking place in the system. They can find out what it is, radio back. If it's something minor, they can actually tell the customer what it might be. If it's something minor, reducing any truck rolls. Better service for our customers. Having that real-time scenario where they can. In most cases, those integrators, most technicians for these integrators have PCs in their trucks now. They can log on to their system from anywhere, start doing this. So that's reducing a lot of the time and pain that it takes to get back to that customer because that data can be right there for them. Now, being able to do that and be able to provide better service to those customers leads us to that last point, that customer contracts and the stickiness of it. Because we can provide better service, we can get that customer up and running if need be quicker because we don't have to worry about the background infrastructure. That really helps out. So now it really leaves that customer to think about what's going on from a physical standpoint. This is going to be my segue into Julia here, where that physical aspect of it, what do they do from the credential standpoint and the reader standpoint? So Julia, I think let's hear from you and what Wavelynx has to say about this portion of the infrastructure.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I mean, you're exactly right. We start to think about readers and credentials as part of that technology stack, right? So what is that technology stack that you need to effectively transition to the cloud? And so it really, you start to think about the reader more than just, oh, it's something that reads a credential and goes beep and has a green light. But what technology is part of that reader? What technology is part of that credential in that overall technology stack? And how does it align with your IT department? And I think that's where the discussion gets interesting and relevant. And so with that, I will just call out before I go to the next slide. In this deck, you'll see that link there. We do have a guidebook that's available at Wavelynx when people are thinking about how can they move from legacy systems to secure credentials, secure readers, and encourage people to give that a look because it does approach it from a few different dimensions. Are you going to start with updating your credentials, start with updating your readers? Everybody's a little bit different. So we go through a couple scenarios in that guidebook with that link that you see there. And on the next slide, we call it the apex effect. So in partnership with Acre, we have rolled out a new line of readers. And these readers are designed to be on the wall for decades. They're designed to have the quantum processing power needed, 10 years out as things shift. So we're ready with these readers to evolve to where things are going tomorrow. And that with that, you have a never compromise attitude on security. And there's a couple things that are fundamental there that we've done with the reader to help with the transition strategy. But on the next slide, the first step is it just going to work in your environment? So when I say built for decades to come, the first thing is it going to work out outside? Does it have the IP65 rating? Yes, all of those things. They're relatively straightforward, but not every solution out there in the market has that. So before we get into talking about the core technology stack, how is the reader manufactured and how is it installed? That's an important piece. It's important to the installers. It saves money if these things are thought about. With the new Apex readers, with the Acre line, we've simplified the installation. We give the option of pigtails or a terminal block. We've adjusted how installers can access that installation point on the reader. So there's just some very simple things that have changed in the reader configuration that optimize and help with that transition when you're swapping out readers in the field. And that part is very important. And the fact that it will work in many environments. On the next slide, we talk about how does this help adapt? And in the bottom left corner there, you see some different logos. They're all about credentials and how credentials are changing. You see MIFARE DUOX. You see those 4 leafs are the leaf community. You see Aliro, and you see the MIFARE. What does that mean? It means we're going towards an era that is having readers that can support credentials that are not clonable, that meet ELA level 6, which is basically a high level certification within the common criteria standard that signifies that it's extremely robust from a security standpoint and meets it from an IT standpoint. And that's an important call out. So it's used generally in critical infrastructure and also now with things like wallets. So we're talking about Aliro associated with wallet credentials, as well as what we're doing with physical credentials that support public keys. This is a big shift for the industry. It's an important one because not only does it bring additional security to the table, it brings additional interoperability. It lets the end user, the enterprise, be at the table and choosing the best reader, lock, whatever it is for their infrastructure. That's where we're going with public keys. So we add security, we add scalability, we add interoperability, and we make sure that we're quantum ready so that the threats that we've experienced as a physical industry in the past, we don't have those same threat vectors going forward. So that's where we talk about how we adapt to what's coming, how we adopt the new PKI credentials that are coming out into the market to make sure that the enterprise is protected from those cyber threats as they evolve, which they will. Bill, did you want to make any comments on that piece before I move on to?
No, Julie, you're rocking it.
All right. So on the next slide, this is just a quick. We've all heard, if like Bill and I, you've been in the industry for a while, there's been a bunch of breaches on symmetric keys. So whether, we're talking about the prox, we're talking about more sophisticated than prox, we're talking about iClass, there have been breaches, and there have been public mentions of those breaches. So that shared secret model, that's symmetric model. So symmetric model where there is a key set that the reader knows and the credential knows. Those shared secrets have been broken. And for the future, they can't scale the same way a public key-based credential can scale. So what does this mean? We already have a solution now for public key-based credentials. We have a solution for physical credentials, and we have a solution for mobile wallet credentials. What is that solution today? There's a couple options out there in the market for the public key based physical credential. But the one I'm going to talk about today is this card. It's a Leaf verified card. And that Leaf verified card just looks like another card. It's kind of, why are we getting excited about it? Well, the reason why we get excited about it is it approaches the security of the credential completely differently. In collaboration with the silicon manufacturer NXP, we encode that certificate for the credential at the wafer level, at the silicon layer. So when you have people talking about, oh, I've got this flipper device, or I can clone these credentials, when you do it at the silicon layer, when you do it at the wafer level, then you have a truly unclonable credential. That's the first step. The next step is, how do readers out there in the market, locks, devices, read this credential? And it goes beyond, I should stop saying just readers, physical access readers. It goes into the IT space. It goes into printers. It goes into how you're logging into your computers. Like, this credential is used across the board, not just in how we sometimes think about our circles, right? So with that, you've got a public cert that's out there that anybody, any device manufacturer can access and have that device securely read and authenticate this credential. That is a fundamental shift for our industry. It opens up scalability, it opens up interoperability, and we remove that threat to the enterprise for cloning of credentials, and where Bill and I started with there being a $4 to $5 million liability in your pocket. So that's where we're going. And that's why it's important that as we think about our technology stack, the credential and the readers need to support where we're going next with public keys. So on the next slide.
Julia, just to add some commentary to that, I think you touched on a really great point with the appliance-based usage. Printers, internal pieces. I think it's part of this that a lot of people forget, having that Leaf key going in there, because part of a lot of company cyber compliances have to do with not just our applications. There's other ones.
Correct.
Who's printing what? Who's copying things? This goes as part of the audit trail. So being able to make sure that that device is not being cloned, that card is not being cloned, and they have full security for those devices, not just who's coming in, but what are they doing there. That's something that I think everybody needs to start taking a much larger look at in our industry.
100%. Yes. So, and it's not exclusive to the physical credential, right? The digital credential is there. We've worked with Acre to integrate into have an NFC wallet solution. And the same thing applies. That NFC wallet solution is evolving too into that public key approach with Alero. So we've already done the initial integration as it relates to the NFC wallet experience. And that is highly more secure than any sort of Bluetooth BLE approach in the market today. But we're evolving that as well. We're evolving that to a public key approach under Alero. So both of those things are important as you're looking at your tech stack, that we can support what exists now for NFC wallet, what's coming down the line with Alero, and the fact that you have to make sure that just like a physical credential, that digital credential is secure. If you look at the BLE mobile options out there in the marketplace, there's a lot of issues, potential issues and security gaps associated with those solutions. The NFC wallet solution functions without having to unlock an app. You don't have to download an app onto your phone, and it can work when the battery dies on the device as well. These things are important because the NFC wallet credential is stored in the secure element of the phone versus open memory that is prone to same sort of hacking and cloning attacks that we can see with physical credentials. So I can draw some kind of similar commentary between the two. And I know Bill and I have had many discussions on this topic. So I know, Bill, if you want to add any color here, but I just wanted to call that out as well, that, thinking about digital credentials the same way about
I think
security.
in our end, we talk about this on the daily.
Yeah.
This is actually becoming a big piece. Obviously, while we're having this webinar, having that native piece in here has been key for us to be able to introduce this to existing customers and new ones. So I'm all for it. I love it. The ease of use is great. So looking forward to seeing the future on this.
Yeah, awesome. And then, and that brings me to, so what is your transition toolbox? So, Bill and I, Wavelynx and Acre, we're here to support you in that transition. So how do we do that? We'll support those legacy credentials today. So if you have prox credentials, we'll provide a transition path to a credential that's a dual tech credential that you can roll out and ease that migration over. And then we have things like a prox filter. What is that? It basically just means that the reader will continue to read prox until we say that whole population is moved off prox, and then we'll turn it off. So the enterprise does not have to worry about any further threat vectors from that prox credential being out there. And then we also have invested and patented OSDP auto detect. So what does that mean? It saves money. It means that you can use your existing wiring, and you can then, as soon as you update your controllers to support OSDP, great. We'll flip it over, and you'll have secure communication between your readers and your control panel. That's a really important piece. I think, Bill, you and I have looked at a bunch of projects recently where we can see the savings that this enables, right?
Yeah, this is a requirement in most cases now from a cyber hardening standpoint. I've been a proponent for OSDP for many years, really trying to run this forward and having that auto detect feature. So if it's enabled at the controller level, the reader will pick it up, even utilizing the Wiegand format. Even if it's wired as Wiegand, you can convert and it'll pick it up. So that's really important from a customer standpoint, that we talked about that earlier, being able to reuse existing infrastructure, having bi-directional communication, knowing the status of the reader, not wondering, is the reader on the wall? Is it working? I don't know. If you have OSDP, it's a real quick answer. It's there and it's working. Or it's not. So
right, you got that device held, right? You got that. Yeah.
Listen, I mean, it's one of those things that I'd be through my career having customers call me from a tech support standpoint. Is my reader's not working? Well, did you check it? No. And then they go out. It's not on the wall. Well, that's why it's not working. Right. But they had to roll a truck to go check on that. So from the easy physical aspect to the encryption standard that runs with it, I would highly recommend anybody on this call who doesn't know OSDP, you guys better get with it and start investigating it and know it. It is where everything is at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other, tool in that toolbox is the Leaf community. So both Acre and Wavelynx are active members of the Leaf community. And what does that mean is we're all working together with over 40 organizations at this point to bring interoperable credentials and devices into basically that tech stack. There's an extensive list of devices, locks, parking solutions, long-range reader solutions that can all work from the same credential, whether it be a physical or digital credential. So if you're not familiar with the Leaf community, I encourage you to look into leaf-community.com and check out all of the various solutions that are out there that can come into this ecosystem. And here are just some examples specifically on Wallet where it goes beyond Wavelynx and Acre. You can see some of the names here. Some people out there may be like, oh, I'm surprised that Wavelynx and Acre is working with some of these logos. We are. It's important that we deliver on the best solutions for the enterprise together. And that's what we're doing. And those, Acre's Wavelynx wallet credentials will work on devices from these logos that you see here on the slide. So that's a important call out to enable 100% use case across the board for the enterprise. And I think that leads us into some examples of how we brought this solution together, Bill, and what we've done.
Yeah, so discussing a use case here, I think one of our most recent is an integrator out of Manhattan. They are a large-scale company that OEMs our product. This exact issue came up. They utilize our product internally. We're an HID company. They purchased the HID product, but we're looking for something a little bit more resilient and I believe more integrated into our API. Now, clearly, Wavelynx and Acre are related companies, so having that interoperability was a no-brainer for us, making sure that we could issue those credentials. The company in Manhattan, DGA, very well known, Stanley Oppenheim, those who know him, amazing individual. He's an older gentleman, but it's crazy to see how cutting edge he is himself with his company. Going in and researching the Wavelength solution was a big part of this for them, being able to issue credentials out of our solution so that they could reuse their existing customers' existing infrastructure. And that's not a lot to say in one sentence. Was an extremely important thing for them. Wavelengths met that need. I'm sure if anybody really wants to, we can try to set up some calls and we can really geek out on why those readers work better. But that Apex piece has some technology built into it that without completely geeking out here, allows the existing Wiegand wiring to be used for that OSDP process. So that's allowing them to get status of the reader, push updates to that reader, not have to roll trucks anymore, be future-proof ready for credentials. So this is one piece where this was a huge win for us. This customer does thousands of readers every year. They purchase tens of thousands of credentials every year from both of us. Now from both of us. The reason why they moved forward with Wavelynx is because of that. The issuance of the NFC credentials is embedded in our API. They already knew our API. So the learning curve for them was very, very minimal. We needed to create a flexible path for them. The fact that they could individually put artwork on each one of those NFC credentials was an awesome thing for them. They have their logo all over that thing. We're just little side bites on them. So customers really take on that experience. So I think they're a really good success story from this aspect because they can reuse the existing infrastructure. They're updating their existing customers, creating multiple new revenue streams where they weren't there before. So all of this is a really big success story for us and that company in Manhattan. Really like to talk about them and really love working with them. So anybody have any questions on that? I'd love to have that conversation with them. But Wavelynx was a great partner with us kind of going in with this. So Julie, anything for you?
Yeah, no, I think well said, Bill. I mean, that native integration, I think is critical. The ability to do the customization, as you said, of the artwork. That's something we can do together for other opportunities as well. And Bill and I are happy to take those calls and answer any questions that you guys have on how we can do that and make it work for your brand and your deployment.
Excellent.
Awesome. Now we're gonna open the floor for any questions you guys might have. And we're gonna go through The first question: how easily can I train my technicians to adopt Acre access control? Bill, are you going to take that?
Definitely have this one. So like I had mentioned before, being in this industry for such a long time and having this experience in there, uh, an embedded solution, an on-prem solution really has to, most of the time technicians have to learn operating systems. They have to learn the needs of the server infrastructure to actually get that software loaded. So historically, technicians really had to learn how to be IT guys. That was really, really challenging for me in a lot of cases when I first started. And I think it's something that in a lot of cases, when technicians come out of the gate now, a lot of companies don't throw them right into the mix of new installations, because if they're not familiar with the server infrastructure, they're not really going to be able to be real successful at the deployment of an on-prem solution. With cloud, they learn our software. That's it. They get the training. It's online. They can very easily set aside time. Our training is self-paced. So every one of our integrators and even our end users, they have access to that training portal. So learning our software is all they have to do. We take care of that back end, so they don't need to set up their computer and server environments. And this goes for SMB market or enterprise. Even in that SMB market, customers still had to buy small PCs, still had to make sure that they had the right SQL licenses, things like that. Don't have to worry about that anymore. So we're taking that time of the technician from starting with that company, learning our software, and then being able to be out in the field learning how to program this stuff. It's a very minimal time, and they don't have to learn as much as we used to. Back in my olden days, as we like to joke around now. I never like to think of myself as an old guy now, but I am apparently. So I think that part makes it a lot easier for our customers and for the VARs and the integrators.
Thank you, Bill. Next question we have is: Acre and Wavelynx are both members of the Leaf community. How does the Leaf community help companies with modern access?
Awesome. So I think that, yeah, I think that's what that one I'll take. So yes, today, as I mentioned, we have over 40 organizations who are members of the Leaf community, and we're all committed to delivering on interoperable solutions that meet the next level of security that's required by our industry. It's interesting because not many people know, but end users can join the Leaf community for free. There's no membership fee, there's no blockers, and we're having really productive discussions, getting that end user expertise at the table. And so that is something that, both Acre and Wavelynx are leaning into, and listening to the end user, listening to the enterprise as far as what they want to see from their credential strategy for interoperability. The Leaf community has a product committee that meets twice a month. We have folks like Bank of America who are engaged in the Leaf community as an end user, who's a great example of an organization who's been forward thinking for a number of years on what that secure credential strategy should look like and how it should evolve. So that, it's come to the table if you want to join the community, have a voice, but you can also look at everything that the Leaf community is doing as public as well for organizations who want to understand, and that's available on the Leaf community site.
Amazing. Thank you, Julia. Next question that we had was: what does a typical migration to the cloud look like? And Bill, I think this is the one for you.
Absolutely. I'll start out with an SMB market size application, and this part becomes very, very simple. Again, duplicating the server environment is something we don't have to worry about. So integrators going in and taking a smaller system, in most cases, exporting the CSV file for the card holders, uploading them into our system, and then moving any Mercury hardware over to our system. In most cases, from Series 2 forward, we can consume all of that Mercury hardware throw some caveats in there here and there if a customer has any special requirements or cyber compliance. But for the most part, we can consume all of that hardware. If it is Mercury, it becomes very simple. They just get rebuilt in our software. They can all be built before the cutover takes place, which is very, very convenient from an integrator standpoint. So that part, from an SMB standpoint, much, much simpler than standing up another server, trying to forward all that stuff through, and then you're rebuilding it, repointing to new servers. In most cases now, I'm just going into those boards and I'm taking them from an IP server configuration to an IP client configuration, and that's how they get out to our instance. There is no gateway that goes in between those Mercury devices for us. From a corporate standpoint, I'll try to keep this one as light as I can because it does get more complex, but it does simplify the migration even bigger. Not having to create a new server environment from a large scale aspect is very, very big for a customer. They may have huge server infrastructures and virtual environments that are already there. So to forklift and stand up another one at the same time means they're doubling their cost and getting a new environment ready, buying new licenses for all the applications that need to be on that. We're taking off that whole entire piece and we're just saying, okay, we're going to start programming this. We're going to take whatever data out. We're going to put it into this system if it needs to be, if locations need to be rebuilt. This is an opportunity to upgrade your access groups, clean your cardholder database. So a lot of these applications become very easy because it can be stood up in parallel. I don't have to worry about the cutover. So we can do things one at a time, bring one board over, see if it works. If it doesn't, I don't have to worry about backing up the whole entire system. I can just point it back to their old system, fix the issue, and then move them forward again. So this becomes a very seamless project moving forward and much easier than going from server config to server config.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Next question. I think this one is for Julia. Why is the reader selection so critical in ensuring you have credential flexibility in the future?
Yeah. Thank you, Yasmin. I think that comes back to, do you have a reader that fits with that transition toolbox? Do you have a solution that can support your legacy credentials, give you a path to move off those legacy credentials securely? Does it have a path to leverage your existing wiring and save you money? All of these things come into play when you're looking at that, reader selection. Does it align with what you need to transition and to be future, ready for the next generation of credentials? I know, Yasmin, it looks like we had a few more questions come in.
Yes, we have 2 more questions. Michael is asking, what is the pricing model for mobile credentials? How is the controller accessing the SaaS? And do you have multiple regions served by Acre?
I could take this one, Julia. This is actually pretty easy. Pricing model is per credential per year. So you buy that credentials from a mobile standpoint. Now, I believe, and Julia, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's the same whether it's Bluetooth or NFC. We are per credential per year. So that's our standard model. Costs are obviously different between the NFC and the Bluetooth credentialing piece. Now, the controller reaches the SaaS environment through that IP client configuration. If it's Mercury, it's traditionally set to an IP server configuration where the controller's pointed directly to a server. In this application, you go into that Mercury board, convert it from IP server to IP client, and then you can load in a web URL, and then it becomes outbound only. Your customer only needs to open up ports 3001 or port 443 to allow for external communication only. We do not require an appliance to sit in between them. Same configuration for some of our other partners, but I don't want to go too heavy into that. Mercury is our preferred and is generally the market leader out there from a controller standpoint. We also do have multiple regional servers. We have servers in environments in Canada, North America, Europe, Middle East. We are currently opening one in Asia right now. It might actually be ready today. So, kind of good question for right now. I know we, due to some of the events that are taking place in the world, we're moving some of our AWS environments around. But yes, we do have multiple regions.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. And Jerome is asking, can we use VMS like Genetec or Milestone for your account, for your access control?
I believe, yes, if you're talking about integrating, Milestone is one of our bidirectional partners. So they're set and ready to go. We can, either pump all of our events and transactions into the Expertech platform, or we can consume the video into our platform for integration with devices from a transactional standpoint. Genetec, I believe that is something that is being worked on right now. I don't want to speak too much about that, but I know as of today, it's not something that's part of our certified integration platform. However, like I mentioned, we are an open and RESTful API. So if a customer has a need for this, they can take our API and they can develop any integration that they want. We do offer assistance with certain things. We have multiple integration partners that we do work with to make this happen for a customer. So if it's a requirement, it is something we can make happen.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Julia. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. At Acre, we deliver a unified cloud-native platform that combines access control, intrusion, video, and identity into one seamless solution. But what really sets us apart is how we do it. We bring together decades of heritage, as Bill mentioned, in security, with the speed and intelligence of modern enterprise software. A platform co-developed with AWS, built for scale, resilience, and deep enterprise integration. Others talk cloud, we've engineered it with the backing and architecture of the world's most trusted infrastructure. If you have follow-up questions, please reach out. We'd love to continue the conversation. And thanks again. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Yasmin. Thanks, everybody.